Ouachita National Forest stretched out like a dark, breathing giant beneath the night sky. Trees towered over the dirt road as an armored Humvee rolled cautiously through the misty backwoods. Inside sat Tyson Parker, his rifle resting across his lap, jaw clenched and nerves coiled tight. And the reinforced compartment behind him, secured with steel plating and military-grade locks, was something that had taken a week to track, 4 injuries to contain, and a black ops budget to cover up. DOGMAN, but not the kind whispered about by hunters or seen in blurry roadside sightings. This one had something wrong with it. The creature had been captured outside Broken Bow after a string of brutal deaths. Locals had blamed wolves at first, but wolves didn't gut campers in their tents or take down full-grown deer with a single swipe. Witnesses described a massive canine figure walking on 2 legs, foaming at the mouth, eyes burning red through the trees. Every response unit that got close either ended up hospitalized or disappeared. It took Tyson's team to bring it in, and even then, just barely. Now the mission was simple. Transport it to Facility Delta, a deep black research compound in the middle of nowhere. No press, no paper trail, just steel doors and armed guards. Tyson glanced at Cole Alvarez, who was gripping the wheel with white knuckles. Behind them sat Captain Jordan Mays and Specialist Kyle Harrison, silent, tense, each man on edge. Nobody talked much during cryptid runs, especially not ones like this. The trees on either side of the road blurred by. Moonlight filtered in faint streaks through the canopy above, and the headlights carved a narrow path ahead. Everything was quiet until something darted across the road. Cole slammed the brakes and yanked the wheel. The Humvee veered hard, tires losing grip on the loose dirt, crashing through brush and roots. The vehicle pitched sharply, metal groaning, and then dropped. They had hit an embankment. Tyson's shoulder slammed into the door, and everything went sideways. The vehicle tumbled once, twice, then hit bottom with a crunch of steel and broken glass. For a few seconds, all was still. Tyson groaned and shoved the door open, crawling into the cool night air. His ribs ached, blood dripped from a cut on his forehead, but he was alive. Captain Mays was climbing out too, shouting orders. Harrison followed, limping, one arm hanging useless. Cole didn't move. His body was crumpled behind the wheel, head tilted at an angle that said everything. But none of them had time to mourn. The crash had broken more than bones. The containment locks were damaged. Tyson turned toward the rear of the vehicle and froze. One of the steel doors was warped, the top hinge bent outward. From inside came a deep, rattling breath, then a low thud. Mays raised his rifle. Form up. Tyson gripped his weapon, backing into position beside the captain. Harrison stumbled in behind them. The night around them felt like it was holding its breath. A third impact bent the door. Then, with a shriek of tearing metal, it burst open. The creature spilled out into the clearing. It was massive. It was taller than Shaquille O'Neal, with legs bent backwards and claws as long as Bowie knives. Its fur was dark gray and soaked in sweat and blood. The head was unmistakably canine, with a broad snout, ears laid back tight, and a mouth filled with teeth that looked built for tearing flesh. Foam coated its jaws, thick and yellow, dripping from its mouth in long ropes. Its eyes were bloodshot and wild, twitching left and right. The way it moved was jerky, almost glitching, like its body was fighting itself. Tyson's stomach twisted in knots. This wasn't just a feral dogman. It was sick, rabid, diseased, chaotic. But not normal rabies. Something more aggressive, something unknown. The dogman let out a strangled howl and charged. All 3 opened fire. Muzzle flashes lit the trees. The bullets struck its chest, limbs, shoulders, but it didn't stop. It barreled through the gunfire like a machine built only to kill. Harrison dove left. Tyson and Mays scattered. The creature hit the Humvee, tipping it halfway on its side, then spun, foam flying, claws slicing through a tree trunk. Tyson ducked behind a boulder, trying to catch his breath. Mays shouted from somewhere behind a fallen log. "We can't hold this ground. Move north, toward High Ridge." Tyson spotted Harrison, blood running down his side, eyes wide with panic. He grabbed his arm and pulled. "Move now." They ran. Branches slapped against Tyson's face. The ground sloped upward, rocks and roots threatening to trip them with every step. Behind them came the heavy crashing of something huge and relentless. They didn't look back. They reached a ridge lined with broken stone and low trees. Mays slid behind a large rock, breathing hard, scanning the woods below. Tyson dragged Harrison down beside him. Everything below was shrouded in shadow. Then came the sound, not a howl this time, a wet, gurgling snarl. The dogman stalked into the clearing beneath them, its chest heaving, foam still dripping from its mouth. Its movements were jerky now, twitching like it was losing control. It let out a low growl, the sound more gurgle than roar, as if something inside it was bubbling up. It hadn't given up, it was waiting. Tyson crouched beside the others, watching it prowl below, its massive hands flexing in the dirt. Its head twitched again. The foam looked thicker now, clinging to its fur and face like a plague. Whatever was inside that thing was getting worse by the minute. Mays kept his voice low. "We're not dealing with a wild animal. That thing's infected, some kind of advanced strain." Tyson said nothing. He could feel it too. The heat of its breath, even from up here. The rage in every twitch of its limbs. It wouldn't stop, not until they were dead. The wind whispered through the trees, cold and sharp as the three men crouched in silence. The dogman prowled below, pacing just out of reach, its foaming mouth twitching, shoulders rippling with each heavy breath. It moved like a thing possessed, driven by something more than instinct. Harrison's breathing had gone ragged. He gripped his weapon loosely, his bloodied arm wrapped in makeshift gauze. Tyson kept glancing at him. The guy looked barely conscious. They needed evac soon. Mays clicked on his radio. Static hissed, then a faint voice broke through. "Echo team, status, location." Mays answered in a low, firm tone. "Delta Control, this is Echo 1, Humvee down, 1 killed in action, 2 injured, target is active and infected, requesting evac at beacon point 7. There was a pause, then the voice crackled back. "Evac en route, 20 minutes, hold position." Tyson's stomach turned. 20 minutes felt like an eternity. "We're not gonna last 20 minutes, he said under his breath. "We will," Mays replied. "We hold this ground." Tyson nodded, but the truth was pressing in behind his eyes. His hands were starting to tremble. Not fear. Something else. His vision blurred for a second, then cleared. A strange pressure was building in the back of his head, like heat trapped under his skin. He rubbed his temple and tried to focus. Below them, the dogman let out a dry, raspy snarl and lunged toward the slope. "Contact left," Mays shouted. It came fast, claws raking the dirt as it charged up the incline. Tyson opened fire, the rifle jolting against his shoulder. Mays joined in, then Harrison, their shots cutting through the dark. The dogman staggered as rounds hit its chest and shoulders, but it never went down. Its eyes blazed. It slammed through saplings and thick brush like they were paper, its foam-covered muzzle snarling open. "Move!" Tyson yelled, grabbing Harrison and pulling him back as Mays fired again. They scrambled through a narrow gap in the rocks, slipping into the thicker trees. Mays dropped a flare behind them, its red glow flooding the clearing. The creature hesitated, twitching, flinching at the sudden light. Then it moved again. Branches cracked behind them as they ran. Tyson's lungs were burning, legs screaming, but he didn't stop. The forest became a blur of trees and shadow, the only sounds the snapping of twigs and the ragged breath behind him. They broke into a shallow ravine just before the evac point. Tyson dove behind a downed log, dragging Harrison beside him. Mays dropped next to them, sweat running down his face, rifle shaking in his hands. The helicopter was getting closer. Tyson could hear the thump of blades in the distance, getting louder, but the dogman was closer. It stepped into view like something rising from a nightmare. Its fur was slick with blood and sweat, the foam pouring from its mouth thick and constant. Its chest rose and fell with a broken rhythm, and it twitched uncontrollably, eyes rolling but never leaving them. It didn't roar this time, it just stared. Then it charged. Tyson rolled right as it crashed into their cover. Wood splintered, bark exploding. Mays fired point blank, rounds tearing into its ribs. The dogman shrieked and spun, lashing out with one claw. Mays dropped to the ground, blood streaking his arm. Tyson fired upward, bullets slicing across its shoulder. The creature twisted and lunged at him, its jaws snapping inches from his face. Its breath hit him full force, hot, rotten, and full of bile. They collided. Tyson went down hard, body slamming into the dirt. Pain flashed through his side. He shoved the rifle between them and kicked upward, forcing the dogman off balance. It snarled and stumbled, foam spraying from its mouth. It froze. His pupils were dilated, his limbs were buzzing. He could feel his muscles twitch without meaning to. He looked at his hand. It trembled, then clenched into a fist. He pressed the sleeve back down over the bite. He kept his head down, breathing through his nose, forcing himself to stay still. The medics didn't notice. The lights in the cabin felt too bright now, too sharp. Every voice was loud, every movement amplified. The rotors thumped above them, but it sounded distant now, like it was coming from underwater. He blinked hard, trying to snap out of it. Across the cabin, Mays finally looked at him, his eyes narrowed slightly. "You good?" Tyson gave a nod. "Yeah, just tired." Mays kept looking for a second longer, then leaned back against the steel again. Tyson shifted in his seat. He felt like he was sitting on a live wire. The facility came into view ahead, just a gray mass of concrete in the middle of nowhere. Floodlights cut through the night fog, fencing and guard towers wrapping around it like a cage. This was where the dogman had been headed, where it was supposed to be studied. Contained. The helicopter dropped low, circling once before landing on the far end of the compound. Tyson barely noticed the jolt of the wheels hitting the pad. His whole focus was on staying upright, staying still. He stood when the others did, careful not to sway, careful not to let his knees buckle. Medics took Harrison first. Mays walked behind. Tyson followed, keeping a few paces back. Nobody saw how he moved slower than the rest, how he kept his head tilted down, how one hand stayed clenched too tight. Inside, everything smelled like bleach and metal. Bright white lights buzzed overhead. Techs in full suits met them at the door, ushering them through hallways toward decontamination. Tyson walked quietly, saying nothing. Every step felt heavier. His body pulsed with heat. His head was pounding. They moved him into a holding room. A small space with cold metal walls and a bench against one side. A two-way mirror stared back at him from across the table. He sat slowly, kept his hands in his lap. He could feel the infection crawling. His fingers twitched again. His jaw ached. His vision doubled, then cleared. He stared at the mirror. He thought about the dogman's eyes, about the way it had looked at him before it vanished into the trees, not like prey, like kin. He was changing. The thought no longer scared him. It felt inevitable now, like a door opening. A knock came at the door. "Agent Parker?" a voice said from behind the glass. "You're cleared for post-mission medical. Just need to run a few standard tests." He didn't answer. The voice tried again. "Agent?" Still nothing. Tyson stared at the floor. His mouth was dry. His gums throbbed. He pressed his back to the wall, breathing slow and deep. He could hear something now. A faint pulse deep in his ears, like a heartbeat, but not his. Then a wave of clarity. He sat up straight. The shaking had stopped. His vision sharpened. He could hear the breath of the man outside the room, the shuffling of shoes down the hall, a drop of water hitting metal in a nearby pipe. Everything was louder, clearer. The sickness had settled, and something else had taken its place. The muscles in his neck flexed. His eyes flicked to the door. His breathing was slow, controlled. He smiled. It wasn't relief, it was recognition. Whatever the DOGMAN had been, whatever it carried, was now part of him. He wasn't dying, he was becoming. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Descent into the Unknown for more horror content. If you have any real cryptid encounters, or you're a horror writer wanting to share your stories, please feel free to email me in the description anytime.